Imagine a world leader facing the possibility of arrest for war crimes. Today, that scenario is not fiction but reality. The International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. These charges, linked to the Gaza conflict, have sent shockwaves through international politics and law. While the ICC has previously indicted other heads of state, this case marks a significant development in the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict. In this episode of What Matters Today, we dig into the intricate details of this unprecedented move. We'll explore the ICC's mandate, the specific allegations, and the profound implications for global diplomacy and justice. Joining us is Professor Paola Gaeta, a renowned expert in international law here at the Geneva Graduate Institute. Professor Gaeta has an extensive background in international criminal law, international humanitarian law, and human rights. She is also a member of the editorial board of the Journal of International Criminal Justice and has published widely on these subjects. With her help, today's episode will navigate this complex and controversial topic with her deep expertise and insights. Welcome to the What Matters Today podcast from the Geneva Graduate Institute. I'm Dan Graham, Head of Communications at the Institute. In this podcast series, we ask members of our faculty to comment on key global issues. Paola, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of What Matters Today. I'd like to jump in with my first question, which is, can you briefly explain the role of the International Criminal Court, also known as the ICC, and its mandate?
The International Criminal Court was established in 1998 and was a big success because it has been the first permanent international criminal court ever established in history. And the very first person who had this idea, to create such a permanent international criminal court is a Swiss lawyer, Gustave Moignet, back in 1864. So it was a dream coming true. And then the court has been established by way of a treaty. So it is created by the will of the state parties. So there are more than 120 states parties to the Rome Statute. So this is the statute creating the court. And the mandate is quite a big mandate because the International Criminal Court has been established to investigate and prosecute the crimes of international concern to the international community. And these crimes are listed in the Rome Statute, and they are genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and since a few years, also the crime of aggression. And that's the mandate, to go after the person responsible for those crimes on the basis of certain rules of jurisdiction that perhaps we can explore later.
All right. Yeah, I think we will. And so what are the specific charges brought against Prime Minister Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant?
That's interesting because the charges concern war crimes and crimes against humanity. So the specific acts that are on the basis of these allegations or concern murder of Palestinian people, targeting a civilian population in Gaza, extermination as a crime against humanity, and also the fact of not allowing humanitarian assistance to reach the population in Gaza as a crime against humanity, as a war crime. So a variety of these kind of acts that have been at the basis of the charges that still have to be confirmed, because this is a request that the prosecutor has addressed to the judges of the court.
What are the main legal arguments supporting the ICC's jurisdiction over this case involving Israeli officials?
This is a very interesting question and very specific to the case of Palestine, because the International Criminal Court has jurisdiction over crimes committed in the territory of a state party to the Rome Statute or committed by a national of a state party to the Rome Statute. In the alternative, the court may acquire jurisdiction or may exercise its jurisdiction at the request of the Security Council, independently of where the crime has been committed, but simply at the request of the Security Council. Now, in the case at stake, Palestine has become a state party to the Rome Statute a few years ago and has requested the court to investigate the crimes committed on Palestinian territory. And when this happened, the ICC prosecutor, the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, before starting anything, it was before the Gaza current Gaza conflict, the prosecutor asked the judges to pronounce themselves on whether or not they considered that Palestine could be a state party to the Rome Statute, because it had ratified the statute, it had notified its participation to the Rome Statute, and nobody raised objection. But as we know, we have a controversy about the statehood of Palestine, those playing because of the fact that this is not the outcome of a political process agreed with Israel, and others playing with the principle of self-determination of peoples and of the Palestinian peoples. Anyway, so the prosecutor, I think he made an intelligent step, because it requested the judges, what do you think? Because I don't want to start investigating any crime. If you tell me, that Palestine is not a state party to the Rome Statute, and therefore the jurisdictional basis would be lacking. And the outcome of this request was a decision by the judges saying that for the purpose of the Rome Statute and the jurisdiction of the court, Palestine is a state party, similarly to what has happened when it is in the context of other international organizations where the membership of Palestine is not put into question, as a state party. And that's it. On this basis, therefore, we can say that the court has jurisdiction over the current Gaza conflict, because the crimes have been committed or are committed on Palestinian territory. Gaza is considered to be part of Palestinian territory. Or when it comes to the crimes committed by the leaders of Hamas on Israeli soils, so the 7th of October, the jurisdiction of the court is based on the nationality of the leaders of Hamas, who are Palestinians. So the court has jurisdiction over both.
Okay. And how have various countries, including the US and European nations, reacted to this decision?
Not unexpectedly badly. Politically, I would say, because legally it's something that has bothered me a bit. They have considered this on a variety. We have seen it on the news on a variety of ways. They even threatened the members of the ICC staff prosecution to be subject to sanctions by the US. They have considered that it was preposterous to have the leaders of Israel on the same level of the leaders of Hamas, and they have threatened their support to the court, although they are not state parties to the ICC, but their political support. And the same for certain European countries. The reaction has been very tough from European leaders. I've read a variety of strong attacks on a variety of reasons. Some others more subtle criticism have been about the timing of the request by the prosecutor, by arguing is the usual debate of peace and justice. How can you make peace with someone who may be under an arrest warrant? How can he be invited to the table of negotiations? You have to make peace with this person in power. And this is a very serious, of course, problem that we can talk about, but is not a new element since the establishment of these international criminal tribunals.
Are there any historical precedents for the ICC issuing arrest warrants for sitting or former heads of state? And if so, how do these compare to the situation with Netanyahu?
Okay. So when you say historical, of course, we have to consider that the court is a relatively young institution in the life of international society, because it was established, as I said, in 1998. The statute entered into force in 2002. And between the judges were elected, the premises were found, so it became operational in 2005 or something like that. And the record of the court is not a big one, in terms of also of criminal proceedings that have taken place. But when it comes to what you're asking, whether or not there have been any precedent by the ICC to go after serving leaders of states or past leaders, yes, there have been cases. One has been the case of Gabko, who was the former president of Ivory Coast, who has been put in trial and has been acquitted. Another one who was never then brought to trial has been Gaddafi. During the war in Libya, he was the subject of an arrest warrant while the civil war was going on, and he was already losing his control in Libya. And he was, as we know, very much know, he was then captured by the rebels and killed. So he was never delivered to the court. Another big case, who is very well known, is the case of the, at the time, serving president of Sudan, al-Bashir, Omar al-Bashir, who is not a president of Sudan anymore, is still wanted by the court. He's in jail in Sudan under charges of corruption. Sudan is not a state party to the Rome Statute and is not to surrender him to the court, not yet. And then a very well-known case last year was Putin, the request of the arrest warrant against President Putin and others members of his government. And he's under arrest warrant. And now we have Netanyahu. Perhaps another case I'm missing perhaps is the case of Kenya, because Kenya is a state party, and for a while their president and vice president were under trial, Kenyatta, and now I don't remember his name, but I mean, the case then was stopped. I mean, the charges did not continue. You see the difference, of course. The big difference is that if you follow this kind of analysis that is made by some people, some colleagues about low political cost defendants or high political cost defendants for the West, it's clear that, I mean, Putin, although he's a big fish, super important kind of person in power, of course, is low cost from the Western political perspective. While when it comes to, it's the first time that the ICC prosecutor has requested the arrest of a leader of the Westerners, of the Western countries. So this is what, for me, incredible. And that's given me hope for the future.
Well, let's talk about the future. And my final question is, what are the next steps following the issuance of this arrest warrant? What legal processes will unfold, and what challenges might the ICC face in enforcing this warrant, especially considering Netanyahu's current status and location?
I wish I could, look into the future. But of course, the answer is easy from the legal point of view, and also problematic, because as I said, the prosecutor has requested the issuance of the arrest warrant. We don't know on which basis. We just have his press release. And now it is for the pre-trial chamber to pronounce, so 3 judges will have to pronounce upon whether or not there is a plausibility of the case to issue the arrest warrant, so they will have to examine the prosecutor file. And this has been a source of criticism in recent days, because the prosecutor has taken some sort of step to go public before receiving a confirmation by the judges. So in a way, it has put the judges of the court a bit in a corner, because he has retained all the media attention without being sure that his request would be accepted by the judges, who have to do their job of judicially controlling. But I think he did it for a good reason in a way. But that's one criticism. And anyway, the possibility would be that the judges would confirm the arrest warrant, and therefore the arrest warrant would be circulated internationally. And this would be an issue about the possible immunities of certain people, such as President Netanyahu until he's president. We can say more about that. But also for the leaders of Hamas, where there are no immunities, or on the contrary, the judges do not confirm the arrest warrant. And that's it. There is a third possibility, is that they may confirm it, but they keep it secret. To increase the possibility of an arrest. In past cases, for instance, in the case of the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, some decisions to issue arrest warrants against certain persons were kept secret for increasing the possibility of their trip abroad, and therefore go for an arrest. In this case, now the prosecutor has made the request public, so I guess I don't know what the judges will decide, but they can also decide that the arrest warrant, if it is confirmed, would be not announced to the press. Politically, I don't know what will happen, because then we will see what will happen, whether or not the Westerners, after the initial shock, they will then understand that the role of the court is also to be universal, not only in terms of ratification, but in terms of going after those who are suspected of serious crimes. And this is what democracy is about. This is what the rule is about. And That's what the West has to accept, that justice is also for them.
I think that's a great way to end this discussion. Just that phrase right there. Fantastic quote. Paula, thank you so much for joining us. It's been very interesting.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Dan.
Hi there, listener. Before we continue our deep dive into what matters today, I want to introduce you to another thought-provoking podcast from the Geneva Graduate Institute. It's called the Geneva Graduate Institute Events Rewind, where we invite you to immerse yourself in recordings of our live events covering a wide array of subjects impacting people around the world. From discussions on international law to insights on AI, sustainability, and governance, the Geneva Graduate Institute Events Rewind brings you first-hand perspectives from our esteemed faculty and experts. If you're passionate about staying informed on global affairs and want to hear engaging discussions on pressing issues, then be sure to add the Geneva Graduate Institute Events Rewind to your listening lineup. You can find it on all major podcast platforms, so why wait? Subscribe now and connect to the heart of international Geneva and beyond from wherever you are in the world. Thanks for tuning in. Now let's dive back into our exploration of key global issues on what matters today.
This podcast series is produced by the Geneva Graduate Institute Communications team. For more information about the Institute, please visit our website at graduateinstitute.ch. I'm Dan Graham. Thanks for listening.